to begin, except at the beginning. I have been telling this story to anyone who will listen, and it just cracks me up. It puts a smile on my face. But to clarify, you are an OG guest
Yes,
in its inception.
in its inception.
I went around went around town. I said, now who can I speak with? And I love talking about my original guests because it was just this idea from a conversation I was having with people that kind of terrified some, but really the answers you would get would be extraordinary. But during our conversation, hope I can say this with a straight face because it's brilliant. We didn't time this. It just happened this way.
Oh, I know where you're going.
I sometimes get tears in my eyes. I'm laughing so hard. We are about to begin, and you are sharing your wisdom, and then here comes the garbage collector.
It was a yawn from the trash can. It was terrifying. It was like Godzilla was having this massive fight with, I don't know, King Kong or something. I that's all I remember from that day. It was just this like, yeah, exactly.
And a crunch, and you summarize it perfectly. You said they're coming to collect our darkness.
I said that?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Is this something along those lines?
Oh,
I mean,
say nice things sometimes.
it was brilliant. That's why I always laugh, and people are like, it was meant to happen. You guys were having this conversation, and here they come. It means the world to me that you are returning, and we can do a refresh and start over.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the first thing, and I make all of my guests do this. I would like for you to introduce yourself and tell everyone what it is that you do.
My name is Kalu James. I am frontman, songwriter, the two of us, in the band Kalu and the Electric Joint. I am born and raised in Nigeria and moved to this country when I was 18, which is quite a while ago, and moved to Austin in '07. So, yeah, I've been in the scene, in this particular scene for a long time.
Yeah. And I love every moment that you share your family background on social media. I would say specifically on Instagram. It's almost like living vicariously through things that you decide to share, and talking about your home and the history, the background, the culture, the experience. A lot of Americans don't travel enough. I know sometimes it's out of reach.
Yes.
For many of us, it's out of reach at the moment. And then for some, I don't know, to truly travel, to truly experience, you have to really immerse yourself. And I know that's kind of stating the obvious, but I don't think people do. And I think everything that you've shared on Instagram has kind of helped push me in that direction a little more. The things that we don't know. You and several other people have been opening doors without me even asking, so thank you.
Oh, thanks, Laurie. I appreciate that. I think at a certain point it becomes, I wouldn't say a responsibility or duty, although there are times where I have thought that there is definitely a bridge. Coming from with the immigrant experience, there is the need to know that even on your worst day here, it's a best day for someone else that they may never experience. And it's not taken away, right? There are multiple realities, truths, they all can happen at the same time. But there's a lot of gratitude that comes with, being able to traverse both worlds. And yeah, what do they say? Like traveling is the window to the soul or something like that. And when you have done that, There is no way. It's almost like there's an unknown that is impossible. And at the same time, it is quite out of reach. Sometimes it's so easy to say, you know, if you live in Europe, then by necessity, you have been to all the other countries around you.
No.
When you live in the United States, you're quite removed from a lot of countries. So there was a point in my life where I would have, put that on ignorance. But I really don't. I mean, I think a lot of people are struggling in so many ways, financially, you name it. So those experiences become one of the reasons why I think you and I also had this conversation about like having a closed. I have had a closed personal Instagram page for a long time
Yeah.
because just going through what I was going through and didn't feel like I was conducive for public consumption in that way, and it often takes certain things. And dear friend had passed away and was much younger than I am, and it became this like lightning rod for me. Because of course you do have the band page, and everyone has every right to share as much or as little as they want to. And it's also wild that we are in the world of there are very few listening, and it's more look at what you're listening to type deal that sometimes makes me want to run for the hills. But some situations got me to the point where I realized that I uniquely have an experience that while I push that out through music, there's still a lot more that can be shared for the benefit of myself and others. And the culture aspect of things, like going home, which I did over the holidays, which was the first time I'd gone home in 5 years back to Nigeria, and traveling while this election had just happened. It's just a really interesting thing because regardless of what side you stand, you do have a representative. It just seems that in those moments, I choose what I want to share and what I keep back, and the algorithm feed the beast, and then there's a part of me that is just like, I am not that. Miss me for 6 months and I pop up, and if it's two people, then it's two people, and that's quite okay. So it's just thank you for saying that. I think we all do struggle with what to keep and what to put out, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That got my wheels turning. I'm not ready for a public Instagram or a public Facebook. I'm no longer on, well, it used to be Twitter. Whatever.
Yep.
You share what you want. And speaking of sharing, dun dun dun, you know this question that I'm about to ask you. But I said earlier it's time for a refresh. Being an OG guest of Vampire Sunscreen, I'm sure that you will feel comfortable from any jumping point, any way you wish to answer. But Kalu James, now that I have you here in the KUTX Music Library, I present the question of questions. Kalu, what is the darkness to you? What is dark to you?
Yeah, that Vampire Sunscreen, by the way, is just a pretty incredible line. I'm surprised there isn't a band that is called Vampires. If you do that, you're gonna have to deal with Laurie, just so you know. But the dark, I immediately I go back home. Electricity is something that is often taken for granted in the West. And I even experienced that when I went home this time, which is every single light that came on in Nigeria, we were responsible for, which meant, you bought gas or diesel or whatever, and you put it in, and it came on, and you try to even form a sort of relationship with the person who turns off the generator to negotiate when the person, like, hey, you turned it off at midnight. Can you maybe turn it off at 2 o'clock at 2 a.m.? Because I am sweating, my behind off here. And with that comes safety. With that comes being unsafe.
Oh, my word.
With that comes some sort of there's a lot of folklore. As a Nigerian, that is very we just live in a very superstitious society, and in so many ways we are okay with not knowing. There's just a lot of things that are very much like, it's always been this way. I don't know how to explain it to you. It just is the way it is. And when you add that on with the dark, everything becomes real. As in, it could be the wind, or it could be spirits, or it could be a bird. And it just opens up your imagination. And I had a lot of that growing up as a kid, and trying to hold on to that as much as possible, since society and getting older tries to find a way to beat that out of you.
Yeah.
But I am very, very, very comfortable in the dark. Sometimes I feel like it's very stark. It's a stark difference from what I write, how I present myself. But that's also because there's no appreciation of light if you haven't experienced the dark. If it was sunlight all the time, you'd get blinded. It's floodlighting, right? It's like stadium lights, just way too much.
That's too much.
It's way too much. And you don't want that.
No, I will burst into flames. You know this. It would be very bad for me.
So the dichotomy of that, I'm very comfortable in the gray. And just when you think about walking into a place that is dark, all you do need to do is be there for a little while, and you get used to it. And not only do you get used to it, you see a lot more. I feel like there is, a metaphor with that, which is like, just don't freak out. Like, everything is going to be fine. This too, whatever it is, shall pass. And yeah, when I'm home, I like it dark.
Yeah.
I have to, my partner comes in sometimes, and there's that question, do you want the light on? And it's probably good for me to turn the light on, but I just feel this warm blanket. I just feel this really warm blanket when it's dark.
It's an interesting way to feel security. We associate it so much with, the monster is going to come out and get us, from the darkness. But thinking,
sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, not at all. Go
I
ahead.
just thinking. I also grew up in the boarding school from the age of 9 to 16.
Wow.
And that was really, that was really tough, and it took getting older to be able to like break down what was going on. But when I think of the dark, I think of the fact that we purposefully, as kids in the boarding school, broke every single light bulb to protect ourselves from the seniors, to protect ourselves from kids that were older than us, because not only was there bullying going on, but there was if I can pick it, picture like Lord of the Flies.
Oof.
That was Nigeria, 19, I'll say 1990. And from 9 through 16, you move up in ranks. So when you're much younger, there are these protective techniques you come up with to save yourself, because water doesn't run, so you stand in line to wait for this water that just trickles down, and once you fill your bucket up, then you have to walk it from where you got the water and try to put it underneath your bunk bed, and you're praying that whole time that someone who is in the 10th or 11th grade doesn't see you, because they will take the water, because it feels like when you're at that age, you shouldn't be the one who is standing to get your own water. Once again, it is this whole system, almost like a prison system in a really weird way. So when you beat all that and you get to your dorm, you want it dark. And you want, when someone comes into the halls, you want to be able to have that extra second to either jump out of the window or hide or do something. So I have just been really comfortable with, I just need a second. And I don't feel like you can have just a second when it's so bright.
No, it takes away your time.
Yep.
Just, that is definitely, first of all, hierarchy, one that no one wants to belong to. But yes, the more vulnerable you are, absolutely you will be searching for ways to protect yourself. And to me, the darkness is almost like, well, here's your cover,
Yes.
your security. Yes, you cannot hide in bright spotlights or sunlight. And now I just have a better point of view, a better appreciation for why you would want it dark. But how terrifying. To me, I've seen a lot of the horrible things in broad daylight. But I didn't stop to think about that. It's not always in the dark. There have been encounters I've had in broad daylight with individuals you never want to meet again for the rest of your life. How interesting that your school story is bringing that to the front of my brain. Ugh. You did share your perspective on this previously. The whole idea, again, yes, here in the States, everything is taken for granted. We flip a switch and there's the power for as long as we can stand it.
Yes.
We get rid of it at our whim. I think that reflects everything in general. I don't know. That's a bit of darkness for me, I guess.
I agree. I mean, there is and once again, when you haven't had a different experience from that, it takes things like reading, it takes things like traveling, it takes things like listening to understand that that it's a privilege. And at the same time, I think with the current climate, there is that understanding that it all could be taken away as well. And it's very scary times. Yet I also believe that maybe not to this extent, but we've been here before. There's a lot of organizing that I think is needed. And sometimes it never really gets to the point of where it should until you flip that switch and the light doesn't come on. And it's not because you didn't pay your bills. I think more and more we are understanding that everything is connected, and we can't just say it hasn't happened or it's not happening to me. Because by the time it begins to happen to you, there very well might be no one to yell out and say it's happening to me. What's to do with that? I am grappling. We are in a process of writing a lot of new material, and this is often what has always pushed me to the stage has been Fela Kuti, it has been Tracy Chapman's, it's been, the Bob Marleys of the world, and holding the dichotomy of could you be loved and be loved, holding that with burning and looting tonight. Like there is that balance, right? And for the first time, Laurie, I'm actually doing a lot of sitting back. Actually feeling like feel like the need to write about something other than what's happening, because sometimes I think there's a part of the experiences of being an immigrant in this country and the many times you have to turn the cheek. There's a lot of that has happened that you begin to say, well, what is happening right now is everywhere. If someone is so compelled to speak on it, absolutely, that's what should be happening. I have been speaking on it. I have experienced it. I am still experiencing it. So maybe it's time to write about a vacation. Maybe it's time to write about a drug. Maybe it's time to write about an escape. And it's easier to do that when you are. It's a choice. It's with the absolute understanding that the dark is happening, but people are switched on. Baton has to be passed. It's a marathon. It's never a sprint.
Yes.
And that's the part where I kind of feel like this. It's a really interesting time we're having this interview. Because I'm kind of feeling like this tumbleweed who's used to knowing all the materials I can gather for Canon Father, right? To create this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to going to this. And for the first time, I am actively letting go of that and just seeing where I go and being comfortable and really, really uncomfortable at the same time. Just trusting the flow and the process, knowing that, this deep sea diver is trying to learn how to swim on very, very shallow waters at this point in time. But I know at the same time, there's just no way that it wouldn't be anything that I am not 100% behind. So there's so many people that self-care for them means switch off the news and all that.
Sure.
And this is one of those countries where, the conversations you don't have on the dinner table or sex, religion, and politics. And that's such a privilege because the rest of the world, that is the conversation that is happening because your pockets are flipped inside out and you're very, very aware of that. So in so many ways, part of community is to talk about that, to say, hey, I'm sure you're going through the same thing too. Like, I don't even have to mention that. Yeah. So I'm comfortably sitting in a very uncomfortable chair that I'm not used to.
That is so brilliant. That is a brilliant way of putting that. That is absolutely yours to do and not do. Because I feel a majority of Americans who are not of color will not know a damn thing until it happens to them directly. A very good friend of mine, Dave McClinton, he's a wonderful, brilliant artist. And I think quite a few of us got really irritated with the phrase unprecedented times, which I thought was a load of malarkey. And Dave was the one who said, Laurie, it's always been like this in this country from day one, from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was such an excellent thing to hear it out loud, because so many of us don't. I think what you are selecting to do to to be comfortable by sitting in this uncomfortably, I think you need to do that. Yes, write about a lovely vacation time. Write about something that made you laugh or smile.
Yeah.
To be born and look one way or the other and have that decide your fate. You have every right to write about a drug. You have every right to... That, to me, Kalu, you're not taking a break. Your existence is not taking a break.
Yeah.
The other day, and I had to say this out loud, born a woman. I'm not going to get started on this. That would be an overload of darkness, and our heads would explode. But, Kalu, I don't think that you're taking a break at all. I think you are being kind to your health and well-being, whatever well-being we could possibly have.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, preservation is very, very important. And as much as you can be confident in that sentence I just said, the war in your head is like, but this is happening, but that is happening. How could you, and I just have to sit with the uncomfortable stance at this point. And we did do this recording before, the first time was before COVID.
I remember.
And during COVID was the first time I ever, as an immigrant that moved to this country when I was 18, that was the first time that I ever took this really big breath of, especially knowing that I was living in a country where there is Uncle Sam, and that I had paid into the system where all of a sudden, and we know as, musicians, the unemployment check that you ended up getting sometimes was more than what it is that you were making on a monthly basis. And Laurie, as soon as I realized, like, oh, I can pay my bills, I began to notice like little things, like walking in the empty streets and kicking rocks for like 10 minutes. And realizing that the last time I probably did that when I was 9 or 10 years old. And got to the point where I realized that, oh, I don't have to keep up with the Joneses. There is nothing to post about. I can get in my car, which I did, and I put a twin mattress, and I drove 7,500 miles in June of 2020. And even within that moment, I was grappling with, this is a frivolous trip, because I have so many family members who were going through a lot. There was a lot of there was a lot going on in the rest of the world, and for the and here I was on this trip where I really wasn't seeing anyone because there was no one to see. It was
No.
just and being able to help out family members, being thankful that I am in this country to do that, and dealing and also seeing that my experience was very different from my friends who were not of color that were doing that trip, because once again people were locked at home. And finally, like you were saying, your friend who mentioned that this has always happened, all of a sudden we were able to see what we've talked about with racism and all the isms that exist, but mostly the Black Lives Matter Lives Matter movement happening, and how I really didn't know how scared I was on that trip. I mean, I was cognizant, but you have to block it and keep moving. That it was only like when I came home that I, after 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks of in coming home, thinking like most people thought, okay, certainly this is 6 months, and we're gonna go back to our lives, right? And when that became really, really clear that that was not the case, I had to go back into those trips, because I hugged the PCH all the way up to Bozeman and came back with
Yeah.
that, and I had to just delve back into those and write from that. I It was just a much needed, and I've talked to a few friends who felt like, hey, I was cognizant of what was happening. There was a lot of departures happening in this world, physically. Yet at the same time, here I was thriving, with the dichotomy of people who were having really hard times,
Mm.
with the grace and thanks to people who were essential workers. It was just like all these things that were happening at the same time, and you felt there was a part of it, or you felt guilt of like, how is this possible? And
Yeah.
the only thing I know best to do is to share experiences. So I started working on a book that I have been for the past 4 years, with multiple rewrites. And my whole thing was to get to the point to possibly write something that is from like a passenger standpoint, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Whether it comes out or not was just not even part of it. It was just like, this needed to come out of me, because I came home and I was like, what do I do with all these experiences inside my brain when I'm stuck in this little studio?
Yeah.
I have to find a way to escape my reality. And I think that was, in so many ways, that was one of the, I mean, I know music does that. We do that to escape. We do that to appease. We do that to soothe and, console. But that book was, and writing that was the first time of like, okay, I know that I'm stuck in the studio with this fan that keeps spinning, and I am my only pod. Pod of one. Uh, but I can be somewhere else. I can be in Africa next to my mother through practice of meditation to see, to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like in so many, I say that because in so many ways I think it's gotten me to, I guess, sit more comfortable with the fact that I don't know what this next set of materials are going to be for us, and that is okay.
These thoughts are now resurrecting in my own head. I was a pot of one.
Mm.
I wonder, though, for many, it was so isolating that oftentimes they couldn't bear it.
No.
And some of my friends became sick.
Yeah.
Whereas Laurie in her cave, I don't know, I've always been very quite content on my own. Not to say that this wasn't difficult. Yeah. It absolutely was. I missed coming in here. When a few of us DJs and a couple of producers were able to return, we were cleaning and wiping down everything. But my heart would ache because it was so silent. And I just wanted everyone back. I love the days I come in and there is a fervor on both sides of our beautiful building. There's the news side just bustling, busy as ever. And on the music side, sometimes the DJ might leave the door open, so you've got music in addition to people talking and we're doing things. I really missed that. I will tell you, I missed it terribly. But the introspection that came from being on my own, being able to be on my own, to rely on essential workers who delivered groceries from time to time.
God bless.
The gratitude was overflowing. And fortunately, I haven't lost that. But to be an empath in this world will tear you apart.
It sure
Kalu.
will.
It tears me apart. It rips
sure
you to shreds. I have to be my silly, ridiculous self and use humor. Not only music, because as I tell you often, music keeps me alive. And I always tell everyone who shares their music, thank you for your music. But I also rely on humor. Because if I wasn't laughing, I'd be too busy dying.
I'm with that 100%. If it's not, if it's not music, it's some comedy skit, I absolutely love stand up. I think it's just incredible. The time and ability to do what comedians do and I feel like in my regular life too, I do really appreciate the humor, and it often, I feel like as soon as I have a guitar or a keyboard in front of me, or I'm on a microphone, all of a sudden it's just a different person than the person who was just listening to Bill Burr or Dave Chappelle and going crazy, It's a very different shift. So I really love songs where people can write really funny songs are just amazing to me. Really amazing to me.
I appreciate that as well, whether it's storytelling or just ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm.
It can be as ridiculous as you can get, and I have a deep appreciation for that. That oftentimes you do run into artists who, they, whether good or bad or positive or negative, they do take themselves seriously. Do I blame them? No, because this is your life's blood. Yeah. This is your own well-being. But to meet that artist who might do something out of the side of their mouth and tongue-in-cheek or even mocking themselves, I get such a huge charge out of that. And if I can take it further, this just popped into my brain. Sure, I'll talk about this. Usually the ones who are known to be quite serious, sometimes even a pain in the butt, will turn around and make me laugh. The late, great Prince. Mm. I was not expecting this, Kalu, and he appeared on the later version of The Muppet Show. I have not laughed so hysterically in my days, where he was having fun with it. You could tell he was having fun with it and kind of being a character. There's this ridiculous sketch, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. They were in a farm on a land, with some corn or whatever growing, and he's dressed in something you could consider to be a very well-fitting farmer's suit. And the whole idea was they were afraid of something in the fields, and it turns out it was an alligator. and the alligator was on the way, and the expression he had on his face before they all ran away to avoid the alligator from getting them. I don't know why I thought that was so damn funny, but it was. So that's like combining the best of two wonderful worlds, and I have really kind of, I make jokes about this myself. I've since parted ways with Sting, but some of the best episodes of SNL featured him not only as the guest musician, but as a guest star. Just, I don't know why I thought this was so hysterically funny, but he's always done a great job as a Bond bad guy, playing opposite Steve Martin. Playing Dr. Frankenstein when the late Phil Hartman was still alive, playing Frankenstein's monster. Again, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't sit up. I was laughing so hard. I don't know. I just get an extra charge.
Which, what a gift, the 50-year vault.
Yeah.
I've been binge watching that. Because,
Yes.
once again, there are these conversations and things that become pop culture, which we don't know. I don't know about that because I didn't grow up here. So all I really do know most times is catching up, right? And this was last year, onwards has just been, the time to go through all these things. And Prince was quite the prankster from what I have heard and seen. And
I didn't know this.
I think most folks are that way. There's a switch that comes on, there's a switch that comes on when you're on stage versus when you're off stage. And I think some people carry that, right? All the way through off stage, on stage.
Unfortunately, I can give you a list if you like. I shall not.
And then some people, it's a switch, I'm definitely on the switch part,
I know this and appreciate it.
Thank you.
I didn't know that Prince was a prankster, but I have heard stories of where his compassion lies, and he was a big supporter of Special Olympics. Again, I went, what? It meant a lot to me.
Purple Man himself.
The Purple Man himself. It meant a lot to me to discover that, to see him rehearsing for a performance actually for Special Olympics, and having a brother with a disability, learning disability. So that was huge. I was even telling my parents, well, Prince is performing Special Olympics. And they were like, oh, very impressed. I just love sharing that because to say something like that when I was growing up, all my parents would hear about is Mr. Sexy being extra sexy.
Right.
Oh, why are our kids looking at that? Oh, my, Wisely, they didn't make too big a deal because my father's theory was this: when you start making a big deal, they're going to want to do this more. I like that. I try to remember that.
I think that's really smart.
I am grateful for that.
I think that's really smart. I believe it's all connected, like the best of us understand that it's all connected, and us human, period. And it makes sense that sometimes it really is hard to look at that mirror. It makes sense. It makes sense sometimes that you pull up and you're at a red light and you're just not feeling yourself that day. You really cannot feel yourself enough to look at, person going through what they're going through. It's heartbreaking all around.
It is heartbreaking. And
I can't do the mom, like a woman and kids. Whatever I have in my pocket, I cannot see that. For me, it something gets disconnected. It just and there are people who are like, what they're gonna use that money for. I'm like, you know what, that's past my pay grade. It is absolutely past my pay grade, and I just know the role of my mother in my life, the role of women in my life, and it takes a lot to get to the point where a kid is also pulled into that picture. So, no, there's no reason to try to decipher what that is.
No.
Yeah, if I can help, I will.
As a person who many, many, many years ago decided that that was not for me, I also had to remind everyone that should not be an expectation, an immediate expectation. That is not happening.
Absolutely.
As I got older, as I would look back and remember what my parents had to deal with. In terms of me, I cannot speak on behalf of my brothers, but when it comes to me, I had no sense of humor when I was in my 20s. Zero. And they worried about that because I took things very personally, and it was just a long soap opera. And looking back, I'm like, oh, my sweet, lovely parents. And my mother would say, look, we're not perfect. I said, no, that's true. But you know what? I am especially not perfect, and you and Dad were doing the best with what you knew.
Mm.
And I cannot fathom as many friends in my life that I've had who are single mothers or single fathers. I cannot even begin to imagine what that is like, raising a child on your own. The partner is either absent or perhaps gone,
Mm-hmm.
or wants nothing to do with it. I can't even begin to see what that's like. Instead, it's always been, well, what do I do this time? Or, well, I'm stuck in this situation, but I found a way out. It's just there was no one else connected to that. It was just me.
Yeah.
So you're right. You're absolutely right.
I feel the same with friends of mine who are artists, musicians, and have kids.
Mm.
Like, I have just like my hats off because I clearly I don't have kids. I don't know how they do it, and I am thankful and give all the grace that I can, and tell them all the time they do an incredible job, because it's tough, and I was raised with actually quite a lot. And I think for me, when I see I can't imagine having going down that path without, while worrying, like how I'm going to, take care of. I can't barely take care of myself. Sorry, I just used the SHIT word.
That's okay.
Great.
Shit, you can say whatever you want.
Fuck yes.
We'll get, we have to cut it out, we'll cut it out. But you're so right when you say everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
Every last thing is connected. Things that we viewed previously, not true. It's all connected.
Yep.
I think what I'm experiencing is a mixture of fear, as in, oh my word, this is all connected. But there's another side to that. I'm grateful.
Yes.
Grateful for the awareness.
Yes.
And grateful to continue to learn from everybody. I don't go around like, I know all the things. Oh, shut up. I do not know all the things. I love being proven wrong, despite what other people might think. I love it. Sometimes being wrong is amazing, and you can take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And go, oh, good, I was so wrong.
And sometimes I think growing up is putting a giant foot in your mouth. There's so many things I've told myself I would never do. Psych. So many. And the more you're in these different situations, the more I think your depth and capacity for understanding grows. It's like you just do not know where someone is coming from, how much they have done to get to where they are, and what just happened before they ran into you, or you ran into them, or whatever. Like it just, I think it's the same thing for me with like meeting quote unquote my heroes. I'm just not interested in that. I've never been interested in it.
Good for you.
I just there's a part of it where I understand, and I say this at the same time. I appreciate when people are express how much they enjoy the show or whatever. But I just know that we are all spirits having this human experience this moment, and you can just be having a really bad day, and here is variable X, myself, coming out from God knows where, trying to tell you how much you have helped my life and improved. It's like, dude, I just woke up, like, girlfriend just broke up with me, my car sucks or whatever. Like, I am not, and that is a human moment at that point in time. And I feel like as much as I can be understanding, I may not have that for that moment. So the best way to do it is just cut it out. I really do. I'm not interested. They have done more than enough and will continue to do it without actually having to meet the human. Yes. I like the spirit. The human is as flawed as I am.
Oh, that was handed to me recently on a platter, and without getting into details, I appreciate that. Well, Kalu, as we begin to wrap this up, I have to remember this part before we do. The tables have now turned. So imagine a table. And now, to wrap this up, you get to ask me a question, but make it count.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Let your imagination go.
Okay. I think it's awesome to know that you, because I when I listen to you online, when I listen to you on the airwaves and online, I think you're hilarious.
Thank you.
So to know that you weren't you're this really serious teenager, it's like, that's a revelation. Because I don't see that at all. Have you always had the Laurie Gallardo voice? I have to ask that.
Oh my word.
Because it's so, it's so distinct. It's so like, it's like someone said, this is exactly what you were going to do. It's this voice that is packaged with this bow and just perfect for this medium. And more that we haven't even gotten to.
Thank you. First of all, thank you. Secondly, I think I knew when I was a kid that I was fascinated with radio. And who knew we would go through a point in our existence where people would say, radio's dead. What are you talking about? There's no radio. Not really, especially when public radio is involved. I think no one said, well, you've got this voice that belongs, and no one ever really told me that. Instead, they were like, what are you fascinated by? Well, this is what I like, and I kind of went from there with it. And it was this thing where I really didn't know what the heck was going on. I think I kind of glamorized it the way most people do. And the reality, going behind the scenes and thinking, oh, okay, I'm a little nervous around the equipment, but I think I can learn, and I set about doing that. Very fortunately, I was able to work at public radio station KTEP in El Paso. There were no internships. I was a part-time employee. Got familiar with All Things Considered and the way they broadcast their news. I don't know if I've always had a voice for it, but I had to learn along the way. You can't always have that perfectly commercial sound because people really hate it now. You can do that for other things, and you can even joke around about it. But now, and especially now, the emphasis on sounding like people around you, that's what people are going for. You hear it on NPR. You hear it in big commercial productions. There are what they call ordinary voices, or really voices of the people. That's what makes commercials now. That is what you hear in reporting now, and often younger voices too. We have our tried and true. We have the people who've been doing it for years, myself included. But we now need to look to the youth to provide all of the voices, not just that one. Thank you though for those compliments, because sometimes I think, what did you just say? What are you doing? Oh my gosh, Kalu, thank you so much.
Thank you, Laurie. Much love.
Much love. Much love. Thank you.
Thank you.